The time is now 7 o'clock.
We're exactly a week away from Chuseok. Can you believe? And this is supposed to be the kind of the most prosperous day of the year, actually, enjoying the riches of the harvest season. But of course, with the poor crop yield and high prices, they have put a damper on things, both for consumers and local sellers. A bit of sticker shock may be inevitable during your Chuseok grocery shopping, but hopefully, we'll still be able to enjoy the best of this harvest season. I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Tuesday, the 10th of September on BEFM, 부산영어방송. Good morning, Wavers. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to the program. Let me ask you this. Have you started preparing for Chuseok yet? Have you begun planning out the menu for your Chuseok feast? Whether it's kind of like the memorial ritual route for you, or maybe you're just having, a family dinner instead. By most accounts, an average traditional layout will set you back almost 300,000 won. And as usual, you can get some cheaper prices at traditional markets, but reports show people still are suffering from a bit of sticker shock. The hot and long summer has led to a poor growth and yield of vegetables. And what does that mean? That means higher prices. One local vegetable seller at Busan Traditional Market said that a 4-kilogram box of spinach, it used to go for 40,000 won. And apparently that has gone up to, are you ready for this? 400,000 won. That is a 10-fold jump. Minari, or water parsley, prices have doubled as well. The situation for fruit, well, it's a little bit better, as apple and pear prices have stabilized compared to earlier this year. And on top of this, changes in culture, this is leading to lighter shopping carts. Fewer and fewer families are holding the traditional memorial ritual, 제사 and 차례. So this also leads to changes in our holiday shopping habits. So listeners, once again, Wavers out there, what does your Chuseok spread look like this year? What's it going to look like? Share with me that. And also, we're ready for a text topic. All right. As a child, when you were younger, what did you hear the most frequently from your parents? Also, if your child or future kid is exactly like you when you were young, how would you feel about that? 자, 여러분이 어릴 때 부모님에게 가장 많이 들었던 말은 이게 칭찬일 수도 있고, it could be 사랑해, or it could be something else like 하지마, this or that. 또 내 자식이 나 어릴 때랑 똑같다면 좋을까요? 반갑다 아니면 멘붕 온다. So let's talk about this. So this is assuming you can be single because we're talking about your imaginary future child, right? So send in your messages about the most common or frequent thing you heard from your parents. Send your messages in to BFM's live stream live chat on YouTube. So go to that platform. You need to subscribe. Also, log in before you can chat away with our Wavers. And also on your phone, pound 9050. That's going to cost you 100 won. You can also reach me for free on our Kakao Talk channel as well. Same thing, search for BEFM or 부산영어방송. You can listen to us and watch us through so many different ways now. So, like I always say on the radio, 90.5, 103.3 FM, depending on where you are in the vicinity of Busan. Also, you can check out our program right now live in real time on YouTube, or use that platform to listen to us and watch us again later on at your leisure. We also have the Patbang app. You can listen to us that way as well. All right, let's look ahead to our morning together. So we have Andrew with Sports Insider, and then we have Annabella for the health. So she's filling in for Bonnie later on this in hour number 2, actually. And for our special interview, You know, there's this debate about sleep. Can you catch up on sleep, especially like during the weekend? You know, we've heard some people say yes. And in the past, we've heard no. So, you know, let's find out with our sleep expert in hour number 2, professor of neurology, to give us the down low on this. If we can actually catch up on sleep, if we're sleep deprived. That's coming up in hour number 2. I'll be back with today's headlines. It is now 7:05. These are today's headlines. Government to dispatch over 200 medics as a blacklist of working ER doctors circulate. The government will dispatch a total of 235 military doctors to the country's emergency rooms or ERs this week, as the health ministry requested a police probe into an alleged blacklist of emergency physicians who have chosen to remain at their post. Prosecutor General accepts panel's decision on Kim Gun-hee's luxury bag probe. Prosecutor General Lee Won-seok told reporters yesterday that he respects the prosecution panel's decision on advising against indicting First Lady Kim Gun-hee, calling her luxury bag scandal an unwise act, but not subject to criminal punishment. North Korea's trash balloons cause fires, prompting property damage. A balloon sent by North Korea caused a fire at a warehouse in Paju, Gyeonggi Province, yesterday afternoon. This allowed another fire at an auto parts plant in Gimpo yesterday morning as well. Early admissions begins for 2025, including medical schools. 39 medical departments are scheduled to admit 3,118 freshmen out of the 4,610 admissions quota for the next academic year, in addition of nearly 1,500 spots. Israel attacks and kills at least 18 in central Syria. Israeli missiles have killed at least 18 and wounded dozens in central Syria as Israel targeted a number of military sites in the area. And these are today's headlines. Let's say hi to Haley first before we get into Busan Updates. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. So, hey, what is like the thing, the most common thing you heard from your parents growing up?
My dad's nickname for me was, in Korean, 독사가 언니 할 애.
What?
Yeah. So, like, you know, in Korean, like, you have 독하다. Like, you're kind of like, it's like a compliment but not at the same time. It's like you're kind of like vicious
and strong,
but strong-willed.
Yeah.
So like 독사 is like a viper. So like a viper would have said 언니 to me. Like a viper would have bowed down to me. Yeah, and I think that was when I was like pre-elementary school. So
interesting.
yeah, I had like a very high pain threshold. So like I was a kid who just did not cry. Like I slipped at a public bath. I was like 5 years old and broke my head, like cracked my head open, and I was like bleeding and I had to get stitches. Apparently I didn't cry. So he was just like, he was just like, oh my God, like who is this? What is this? And then like I didn't cry at the dentist. Apparently I had an inflammation or an infection. Didn't say I was in pain. So that. Very different different from what I am right now because I'm like a tiny bit of pain. I'm like, I gotta go to the hospital.
No, I because you were talking about your dad, so I was thinking about my dad. I think not to sound so cliche, but the most common thing I heard from my dad and my mom were completely different. My mom always said, turn off the lights, go to bed.
Right.
불 끄고 얼른 자. But my dad was more of the loving, I guess you would say, 요즘에 F.
Right.
So he was more lovey-feely. So he would also say, in my Korean name, he would say, 준아야 사랑해. But that's like the most common thing I heard from him. And now I'm getting like teary just thinking about my dad. Dad, I miss you.
My dad took me out to like get burgers and fast food when my sister, my older sister she had to study with mom. And then he would say, don't tell mom. That's another thing I heard a lot. Yeah, don't tell mom.
Yeah,
Like,
don't tell mom. That's a good one.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to jump into our Busan updates. Anxiety over housing scams is high, and young people are seeking out public housing as a safe option.
Right. So amongst young people, their perception on public housing is definitely changing. So in Busan, we have what's called 행복주택. It's a form of public housing for young people and newlyweds. And competition for these units, it has spiked in the past 2 years. And that's also coincidentally in, the time of the rental scams. So according to the Busan Metropolitan Corporation, over 1,300 people have applied for just 23 remaining spots for public housing last month.
Yes.
So that takes the competition ratio to 51 people to one housing unit, right? And that is the most competitive the application process has ever been since the system began, and a tenfold increase for the 행복주택 units that opened 2 years ago, compared to 2 years ago.
Right. So it does seem that the rental scams definitely played a role and a factor in this, right?
Absolutely. So what sets these public housing units apart from the private housing is, well, number one, same thing. You do have to pay that lump sum deposit as you do in Korea. But because the units are operated by a public entity, the BMC in this case, there's no risk of people losing this deposit.
Indeed.
Also, the monthly rent is about 60 to 80% of the going rate in that area.
Sure.
So there are 5 such complexes in Busan right now, and experts say that these homes should be expanded as a major source of welfare and support measure for the young population of Busan.
Well, if we, want to stop the mass exodus of young people, the big brain drain,
give them a
this
place
is
to
great
stay.
policy.
Right.
Yes. All right, next up, the weather will soon turn chilly. We're
I don't
looking
know.
forward to that.
Will it?
I don't know. We're hoping. And this means that cold and flu season is right around the corner.
Right, and that's the concern because it's just been so warm for so long. Like when it hits, people are going to start coughing and sneezing left and right. So Busan City released their free flu vaccination schedule for the 2024-2025 fall-winter season.
Yes.
So starting September 20th. So if you are a parent of babies between 6 months and up to 13 years of age, they can get vaccinated if it's their first time. So for the first ever flu vaccine, you actually do need 2 doses.
Yes.
So for those first timers, September 20th. If your child has been vaccinated before, then it's just a 1-dose regimen, then they can vaccinate it starting on October 2nd. And October 2nd is also the date for pregnant women who do have to show some proof of their pregnancy.
What about for seniors, though?
Right, for seniors, that's also done in phases to make sure that the medical system isn't clogged. So for those who are 75 years or older, so that's the oldest age group, so that means you were born on or before December 31st, 1949.
Okay.
Your vaccination date is October 11th and onward. And then a few days later for people who are in the 70 to 74 age group, October 15th. And finally, the youngest of seniors, 65 to 69, will begin on October 18th.
Okay.
So this is done at the public vaccination centers, clinics, and also doctors' offices who have been entrusted with the flu vaccination, and that's nationwide. For a full list, visit nip.kdca.go.kr. You must, starting this year, you must bring a photo ID for doctor's visits. So don't forget that.
Yes.
Also, I recommend calling ahead to make sure that even if they are on the government list, they might not have vaccinations in stock, depending on how popular other vaccines were. I definitely had to go back in the afternoon because I didn't call ahead last year. So yeah, do that also.
All right, great tips. Next up, Busan City Tour Bus is opening up a new Western Busan line.
Right, so they have added a new Western Busan line on top of the Eastern Busan and the Central Busan area. So Busan City and the Busan Tourism Organization, they're opening the Western Busan line out of the city tour bus starting officially on the 20th of this month.
Okay.
So this kind of hones in on both the beautiful natural resources as well as the culture of Western Busan. So it'll depart from Busan Station, go to to Songdo Beach, Kamcheon Culture Village, the National Assembly Library that's in Myeongji, also the Myeongji Hangbok Village, and the Nakdong River Eco Center, and finally ending it at the Art Museum, the Contemporary Art Museum, before returning to Busan Station.
Yes.
There are also eco boat rides and bird watching activities along the way. So what sets it apart is that the other lines are just kind of come and go lines. They will drop you off at a spot and then, you take the other bus that comes by.
Okay.
But this is a single tour. This is kind of done like a tour bus, so you'll get to know the people who are on the bus with you, and it'll run once a day between 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's done on reservation basis, so times may change Wednesday to Sunday. So Mondays and Tuesdays are off, but there is a free event going on from tomorrow to the 19th, so throughout the Chuseok weekend, except for the 17th and the 18th. So for full information, visit www.citytourbusan.com.
Sounds good. And here is an activity families can do during the Chuseok holiday.
Right, because, kids will be itching to get out, and it's projected to be kind of nice/hot. So
Sure.
the Bokcheon Museum is running a treasure hunt and crafts program. So what will happen is you can take your children to the museum, and they can watch a video on the excavation of the ancient Bokcheon tomb. They can take a picture of this, an 인증샷, and take it to the information desk on the
Okay.
first floor and get a crafts kit.
Oh.
So what that features is the 청동 칠두령, which is a bronze rattle from the Kaya period.
Ooh.
And it's sort of the bells that shows
Yes.
the person buried in this tomb was likely a religious leader. And the participants will be able to learn about that artifact and its meaning and get a glimpse of the spiritual world of the ancient people of Kaya.
Sounds good. So as you are planning your Chuseok holiday, keep these things in mind. Thank you, Haley, for the updates. Now back to you, the listeners. What's the most common thing you heard from your parents when you were young? And also, this whole idea of if you have a child or had a kid, future kid, if they're exactly like you when you were young, do you welcome it? Or do you shudder at the thought of it, is what we're asking. And so let's get to our traffic and weather for now. It is now 7:17. Here's your traffic report. It looks slow on the Dongso overpass from Munhyun ramp to the Old Gaegeum toll gate. Also backed up on Luno Samsung-daedo from Myeongji underpass to Shinho Bridge. It's also congested on Jungwang-daedo from Sojangcheon intersection to Bugok intersection. As for the weather, it's currently 26. Are you ready for the daytime high? We have an expected high of 34 degrees Celsius. And I know it's like the week before Chuseok, but it does not feel like that. It's going to be hot across the country with daytime highs lingering in the 34 to 35 degree range. And this was your traffic and weather.
Are you an early bird? Are you up to date on the news? Are you a trendsetter? For all of the biggest issues from Busan to the world and useful information you need, right here on Morning Wave in Busan.
It is now time for News Digest. We're going to dive into our first story with Haley about the recent deepfake Telegram cases that have brought sexual harassment issues back into the spotlight, unfortunately. But, now let's talk about real-life sexual harassment and assault.
Right. So we are talking about, once again, a workplace harassment that happened in real life. Apparently, about 23% of workers have experienced such workplace sexual harassment, and 15% even physical and sexual assault. So this is according to a survey done by the workplace civic group, Kap질 119, along with the public opinion research company Global Research, where they surveyed about 1,000 workers.
Yes.
So here, 22.6% responded yes to having had experience of sexual harassment. 26% were women, and 19% of men responded yes. So definitely a higher rate amongst women, but also a significant portion proportion of men as well, showing that this really does happen in both genders. The harassing party, so the harassers, 40% superiors, your bosses, and 23% their employers. So definitely a power dynamic at play here.
Yes.
And sadly, 15% of the respondents said that they've experienced sexual assault. And also here, women and people in irregular positions, so people who are at higher risk of being let go, were also definitely had considerably higher response rates to this. So compared to the same survey, so this is done annually a year ago, there was actually an increase in the number of both harassment and sexual assault experiences in the span of 1 year. So that means that number has actually increased. So an official from the civic group said that while there have been laws and regulations that passed on preventing gendered violence or sexual crimes, it hasn't necessarily led to concrete changes on the scene. So they say this shows limitations of how far laws can go in terms of top-down kind of behavior. So they called for changes in perception within an organization, how it treats these accusations, and also its members as well.
Yes, and at the same time, this new rampant form of online sexual harassment that we have to address.
So technology is great. It advances humanity, but also at the same time, humanity will always find a way to use it for sexual purposes. And now we're talking about cyber flashing, which in Korean we colloquially call it online 바바리맨, because there used to be people in flashers would usually wear trench coats and so all that. That's been on the rise. So yeah, so instead of, I've heard like horror stories of these flashers around high schools and middle schools, but that's gone online. So what happens is people would get DMs, direct messages from unknown users on social media.
Yes.
With messages like, this is urgent, can you take a look at this? Or like, I need help. And when you click on it, it's a photo. It's a naked photo of that person. That's how it goes, of whomever. Others will get messages of like solicitation or like asking, it's usually women, for things like their underwear. Yeah. Yes. So according to a report by the Gender Equality and Family Ministry, it's on digital sexual crimes from last year, the number of victims, and these are people who reported it and received help from their support center, it doubled from 250 the year before to 500. And that was for cyberbullying of sexual nature. So how they define cyberbullying in terms of this context, that includes sexual harassment via these online platforms, or sending unwanted or receiving unwanted lewd content.
Yes.
And that can happen over things like messenger apps, social media apps, or even, and this is kind of weird thing, AirDrop. So that's a function on Apple, and I believe a similar function also there's one on Samsung devices as well. But if you are within a 9-meter vicinity, you can send files, photos, text wirelessly, even if that person is not in your contact.
Yes.
But the reason that this is particularly disturbing is, once again, you have to be in a 9-meter vicinity. So person who sent you those inappropriate photos is near you. So that means that really does instill fear upon people. And by the way, 90% of the victims were women of these sexual cyberbullying. Most of them also in their teens and 20s, because they are likely the ones using the AirDrop function or on social media.
Right. So can people be punished for doing this?
Theoretically, yes.
Okay.
But let's emphasize theoretically, meaning that rarely ever happens.
Yes.
Well, number one, if this is over social media apps like Telegram, like ones that have their servers overseas, well, the servers don't really cooperate with releasing the user's information. So they tend to hide behind this veil of anonymity. And even when they're caught, the punishment is, at least for first-time offenders, barely a slap on the wrist. They usually get a fine. So, yeah. So they get away with it.
You know what, though? As a 19-year-old at my second part-time job that was flashed by a male customer, that trauma is still with me. And so I'm just saying.
And, it gets played as humor on some parts of pop culture, but no, it isn't. It really isn't.
Yes. All right. Next, the number of young people with bad credit has been on a steep incline. Not good.
Right. So number of people in their 20s who have bad credit, that figure has come to 66 And this is according to data from the Financial Supervisory Service, or FSS, that was released by Democratic Party lawmaker Lee Gang-il. And this is the number of people who are on the bad credit registry. So compared to the year 2021, this is a jump of 25%.
Right.
And that age group, people in their 20s, that's really of particular concern because this is a time when you should be building your credit, not docking it down. Also, in the same period, the number of overall population of all age groups with bad credit increased by only 8%. So comparing that to 25% of people in their 20s, that's triple the number of increases from the general public.
Okay, so let's let our waivers know. How does one fall into this category?
Right, so if you are overdue on your loan, so that's 3 months after the loan period has ended, or if you've experienced a 6-month delay, then your information is registered with the credit information system. So then you can face a series of issues like your credit card getting blocked, restrictions on loans, and a dock on your credit score.
Yes.
And the fact that this is happening more to people in their 20s, well, that shows that they're getting this financial stigma even before they get their real life adult jobs.
Yes.
And the sad thing is these young people are falling into bad credit over fairly small amounts. So according to the FSS, 88% of those with short-term overdue loans, they owed under 10 million won. So this is happening over an amount that's less than 1,000만 원. So
right.
like 몇백만 원 amount. And given the amount, experts are saying that this is likely things over basic living, like living costs and rent. So they're not like going out and buying homes or buying luxury cars. They're just trying to eat and pay rent.
Oh my goodness.
So given the timing of what's been happening economically in the last 3 years, it's likely because they suffered economically from high interest, high prices, at the same time low employment rates.
True.
So the Democratic Party lawmaker who released the figures called for not only having one-time financial support measures, but also longer-term youth policy like job creation and social support.
I see. Well, thanks for breaking it down for our listeners. We're going to move on. Upon a series of problems worldwide, including the arrest of its CEO, Telegram has finally made some changes to its system.
Right, but will it be enough, at least especially what we're seeing in Korea? We'll see. But founder and CEO of Telegram, Pavel Durov, he is now on bail, released from prison, but he set out a new approach for the social media app and announced that it's disabled some of the outdated / problematic features.
Yes.
So it's been trying to fix its reputation as a hotspot for criminal activity, ranging from what we're seeing here, deepfake sexual pornography, to even weapons and human trafficking, because many have blamed Telegram's lax moderation policy for this reputation and reality. So 4 days during a 4-day interview with the French authorities after he was arrested, Durov said that he came to know during this period that he may be personally responsible for other people's illegal use of Telegram. Because French authorities didn't receive responses from Telegram, they were unable to investigate some of the cases. Interesting that he came to know about this just at that point after he was arrested, whilst reports have been happening.
So what changes are we talking about, though?
Right. So apparently it's reworked some of its language on private chats and moderation and has followed up with some new updates. It's also adding star giveaways and enabling a reading mode for its in-app browser. And it's also removed this people nearby feature where it will let you find and message people who are also in your close proximity. So they say that this has only been used with 0.1% of the users, but this has had a disproportionately high number of criminal activities reported from it.
All right, so that's the latest on Telegram, plus all the other news stories. We'll check in with you in hour number 2, but thank you, Haley.
See you in a bit.
All right, it is time for our first song break. And by the way, one of the most common phrases that you have heard from your parents apparently is 밥 먹어. I've seen that several times. So apparently it's always calling the kids to come eat. All right, let's get to our first song. This is Highway to Hell by AC/DC. Back, everybody. Yes, we are talking about the changes in holiday customs today. And this is a time when companies start handing out their holiday gifts. Have you gotten yours yet? I'm so curious. What shall it be this year from BEFM? So it is also the time when these gifts show up on secondhand sites and people start hunting for these deals. So many of these like canned hams, can't say that brand, but that one. And tuna and oils are in their original packaging, selling for half to 60% of the usual rate. What's also notable this year is that for the first time, you'll be able to sell health supplements or 건강기능식품 on these secondhand markets. This includes various vitamins, minerals, and ginseng in person-to-person exchanges up to 10 and under 300,000 won in total. So just keep that in mind. Those are the regulations. But be sure that this is only for health supplements, not actual medication. That's a no-no. And if you are buying, check over the country of origin. And this is so important, the expiration date. Because you do not want to be consuming or giving as a gift any kind of supplement that has expired. So make sure you do check that. All right, now it is time for our text topic. What did you hear the most often, most frequently as a child when you were growing up? What did your parents say to you? Also, if your kid is just like you when you were young, or maybe your fantasy child, your future kid, turns out to be just like you. And sometimes I think parents kind of say it as a 악담. Like, don't they say like, 너 커서 결혼해서 너 같은 똑같은 애 낳아봐라 or something. It kind of sounds bad, doesn't it? Like they're kind of cursing you almost. So, 여러분이 어릴 때 부모님에게 가장 많이 들었던 말은? 그리고 내 자식이나 내 어릴 때랑 똑같다. 그러면 반가울까요? 아니면 머리 아파요, 멘붕 와요. So that's what we're talking about. Looking at some of your responses. Aside from the, 땡땡땡, 와서 밥 먹어. I'm sure many moms have said that, or dads, like over and over again. Other things, phrases that your parents said, apparently. Tommy says this: I heard mostly my full name at least 2 times a day. So meaning like 홍길동, if in my house it was serious. Yeah, 홍길동. And then you knew you were in trouble. And I knew I was in trouble when I heard my full name. I knew my Korean name. Catherine was nice, everyday language from my dad or mom. But if I was in some sort of trouble, I heard 송준아, 빨리 와. But it was not even yelling. The low tone actually for me was like kind of like, oh my God, I am in trouble. Like something went down. And then my head would be racing. 뭘 잘못했지? What did I do wrong? Like going through all the many things that, and then trying to figure out what I did wrong. So I think that's definitely a sign when your parents call you by your full name. And also we have people who are talking about, my mom told my room controller by Tommy, your son is doing much better than my son. That's a funny one. And Leslie says that the common thing she heard most often as a child was, go outside and play. 밖에 가서 놀아라, or read a book, 책 읽어라. We were not allowed to stay inside and rot in front of a screen. Basically, you either played outside or you read. That's an important point too. I think that's probably a common one. From my parents, it's like my mom was always like turning off the light because I was reading too much. My eyesight was going bad. So she would always say, 불 꺼라, and stuff like that. Anyhow, we're going to get to our hot clip, or actually now it's renamed Cat's Pick. So here it is for today. For today's hot clip, this is all over the news. It's been for the past few hours. It's about the Princess of Wales, known as Catherine, formerly known as Kate Middleton. She announced in a video message that she had been diagnosed with cancer back in March. But now there is a huge update, so let's get to that clip.
I cannot tell you what a relief it is to have finally completed my chemotherapy treatment. The last 9 months have been incredibly tough for us as a family. Life as you know it can change in an instant, and we've had to find a way to navigate the stormy waters and road unknown. Scary and unpredictable for everyone, especially those closest to you. With humility, it also brings you face to face with your own vulnerabilities in a way you've never considered before. And with that, a new perspective on everything.
Is this filming?
Hello.
Has above all reminded William and me to reflect and be grateful for the simple yet important things in life, which so many of us often take for granted, of simply loving and being loved. Doing what I can to stay cancer-free is now my focus. Although I have finished chemotherapy, my path to healing and full recovery is long, and I must continue to take each day as it comes. I am, however, looking forward to being back at work and undertaking a few more public engagements in the coming months when I can. Despite all that's gone before, I enter this new phase of recovery with a renewed sense of hope and appreciation of life. William and I are so grateful for the support we've received and have drawn great strength from all those who are helping us at this time. Everyone's kindness, empathy and compassion has been truly humbling. To all those who are continuing their own cancer journey, I remain with you, side by side, hand in hand. Out of darkness can come light, so let that light shine bright.
So for today's Cats Pick, I chose this clip because a lot of people have been awaiting news of what's been happening with her health. You know, hoping to not pry into her personal matters, but at the same time, she is very much a public figure. So the good news is she has finished chemotherapy. It does not mean the fight is quite over, not quite yet. But of course, best wishes to the Princess of Wales. This was Cat's Pick for today.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Morning Wave in Busan.
It is time for Sports Insider, aka Andrew. You're
What's
in the
up?
house.
What's going on?
Not much. How are you?
Fantastic.
Good.
It's a beautiful day outside.
It is. It's gonna go up to 34 today.
Yeah. I heard that.
Hey, so text topic. We're talking about the most common thing you heard from your parent or parents. What was it?
Oh,
'Cause
is
I
this like
wasn't-
a positive thing?
It could be positive or negative, because I knew I was in trouble when my parents called me by my full Korean name. I was like, oh, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, so for me, along those same lines,
Yes.
I have two middle names. So
no.
my full name is Andrew Hollis Patrick Murphy. So if I got my middle names from my mom, there's a good chance I didn't even come out of my room. And then if she said it again, if one of my siblings was with me, they would be like, you better get out there.
You better get out there, or you better run.
Yeah, or if I heard her going through my school bag and then I heard something but also I think I heard you say something before, and as I was just coming into the studio outside.
Sure.
Was, get out of the house.
Yes.
We weren't allowed to stay in the house.
Yeah, go out and play.
I'm pretty sure mom used to lock the door, especially
lock the door?
in the summertime for sure. She's like, yeah, lunch is at noon. Come back.
Love
or
it.
like, or if we're outside and it's like, I gotta come in. Why? I gotta use the bathroom.
so different from like nowadays. You know, like parents are like hovering, like helicopter parents, like, oh, come inside and oh, do this. And it's so different.
Yeah, very, very much so.
Different world.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. The full name thing, if my middle names were brought into play,
yes,
I was scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. All right. I think that goes for every language, every culture.
So true.
If your full name comes into play, there's something wrong.
Exactly.
All right. Let's jump into some sports. What do you have?
Well, I'm going to start off by eating a big piece of humble pie.
Why?
And admit I was wrong. I have to admit I was wrong. And when I am wrong, I'll admit it. But this time, happily. This is a good thing.
Okay,
all right? So, and give a big congratulations to the South Korean Paralympic team. So last week I sat here, praised the team, but also said it was going to be very difficult for them to reach the levels that they hit in Tokyo and in Rio. And in Rio they had, I think they brought home 35 medals. Well, look who has egg on their face. This guy.
Andrew.
I'm sorry.
What was it, Andrew?
Hollis Patrick. There you go.
Hollis Patrick.
There you go.
I'm writing it down. Taking notes.
Oh, no. I'm having a PTSD.
Andrew Hollis Patrick Murphy.
Yeah.
Get in
so
here.
Team Korea stepped up their game and were able to bring home 30 medals. I believe when I sat here last week, they're at 14. And I had thought they had reached, a lot of the sports that I don't want to say you're guaranteed a medal, but they were expected to win.
Yes.
A couple of table tennis things, some of the shooting and things like that where they were, not a shoe-in, but they were there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But there were some other things that they brought home. So they were able to bag 6 gold medals, 10 silver, and 14 bronze. They ended up finished 22nd place in the medal table. All right, but that's, how it's always because of the gold medals.
Sure.
Right? All right, so the 2024 Paralympic closing ceremony took place at the Stade de France in Paris. I don't know if yourself or the listeners had seen any of the clips from this, but it was quite spectacular. Celebrating the athletes' achievements in the spirit of the games. Now, the ceremony, which I thought was really, really cool, featured 24 artists from the French electronic music scene. So it actually looked like they were in a club. It was so cool. The fans, the athletes, even, the suits, if you want to call them, the delegates, everyone who was there, everyone looked like they were really enjoying themselves. I think that's really what it's all about. It was a bit rainy.
Yes.
But I think that kind of added to it. It was really, really cool. But it was a great send-off, and then hopefully to set the stage for LA in 2028. Something I know we're all looking forward to.
I am so looking forward to that. I'm hoping can we go with special correspondence?
Yeah, sign me up. I'm there.
Our producer is just smiling.
As long as they send me for the 2026 World Cup in Canada, U.S., and Mexico
as well.
and
then 2028, if I'm still here, yes, for Morning Wave in Busan in LA. That would be great. So what are we going to talk about next?
Yeah, it's part of our job to talk about the good and the bad.
Oh, can we just skip over this?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to, but there's a lot of fallout from this, so I kind of wanted to bring this up. And last Thursday night in Seoul will be a mark that won't easily be erased from Korean football fans' minds. And I'm going to bring this out as the 3 poors.
Okay, the 3 poors.
All right, so
the 3 bad things.
We're in full force. Poor conditions, talking about the field. Poor play, Korea's play, which was atrocious.
Yes.
And in the fans' eyes, a poor coaching appointment or managerial appointment, however you want to put that. All right. So in case you were under a rock, Korea drew 0-0. That's 0-0. All right. With Palestine in the opening game of the second round of the World Cup qualifying. And I don't know if people can realize the differences here. I'll just spell it out for you.
Yes.
More than 70 places between the two of them in the FIFA rankings. Now, I know some people think the FIFA rankings are a bunch of blah.
But still.
But
they're a metric of something.
70 places is a big difference.
Like 96 or something.
Exactly.
It's like ridiculous.
All right.
And then some people were saying, this is really mean. But they were like, how can you lose to a region that's not even officially a country, and they're like at war?
Yeah, which just plays on it even more. I'm just
saying what people were saying.
Those are the headlines all over the world. Yeah, for sure. So a lot of people thought it was an easy 3 points. They got it in the bag. A great way to start. This round of qualifying. But yeah, it wasn't exactly that.
So we need to know what went wrong.
Yeah. I think if you want to start with the manager, there's a lot of stuff there. People were talking behind. He was appointed. The proper channels weren't gone through for it.
People weren't happy.
Yeah, people were not. I don't think anybody's ever going to be happy with it if their person doesn't get in.
Right.
It's that's the way it always is with any managerial appointment. But it was the pitch conditions, the field conditions were one of the biggest things here.
Yes.
And that was because the Seoul World Cup Stadium isn't just used only when Korea rolls into town.
Right.
It's used for FC Seoul, the K-League 1 team. It's used for concerts and things like that. And actually, there was a game earlier, I guess it was on the 24th of August, where Seoul faced or hosted Gangwon FC. And the head coach, Kim Ki-dong, actually apologized to fans and to the other team for the conditions of the playing surface. And for anybody who watched the game, you could see it looked like they had laid down new grass in certain areas.
Yes.
It just looked terrible for your essential national stadium.
I mean, it was embarrassing. I'll just say it. Yeah. It did not look good. And the fans were like booing.
They were all over.
And then Kim Min-jae went over to kind of say, hey,
calm them down, and it made it worse.
It made it worse. And you know what the thing is, though? It's like, I don't know. I just don't feel like we should be booing the players, though.
No, but I think it was, they should have done better.
They should have.
And they were booing the manager every time he was up on the Jumbotron, if you want to say it.
And I was thinking, can they stop showing his face?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I don't understand.
Why? Because every time they showed his face, there was like a barrage of boos.
Yeah.
And then that didn't help the atmosphere, the mood in the stadium.
No, not at all.
So I was like, stop showing his face.
Exactly. But I think AFC is the one who drives is in control of the cameras, and then it's just feed it to everybody else.
They're just not smart.
Yeah, there you go. Or maybe they are. I'm not really sure. All right. But they did keep a clean sheet. That was pretty good. So I don't want to say all can be forgotten, but if Korea are able to essentially play Oman off the park tonight in Muscat, that maybe. But it's going to be pretty hard. But that game does kick off at 11 p.m. tonight. A bit late for yourself.
Late.
Yeah.
But I'll be watching with one eye open.
Yeah.
One eye trying to pretend like I'm asleep.
Once they get that first goal, you're like, all right, I'm going to sleep.
Because tomorrow, if my voice is not good, the producer will know. So I'll pretend to be sleeping. Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, let's hope Team Korea wins tonight.
Yes.
I hear you have another soccer story for us.
Yeah, and we're going to get to a quick clip here from ESPN FC before I get to my part of the story.
This was in the Nations League, then Portugal kicking off their campaign with a victory and taking all 3 points, but it is Cristiano Ronaldo who will dominate the headlines around the world after getting his 900th goal. You take a look, Lionel Messi, his closest compare with 838. Some quick maths would suggest that is 62 more than Messi. Pele then with 765, Romario at 756, and Ferenc Puskás at 753.
Yes, we are talking about but none other than
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yes, in Korea they call it Ronaldo.
Ronaldo, yes.
Because of the Brazilian, the Portuguese R H sound, yes.
So 900th goal for club and country. He is far ahead of anybody else. I guess you heard in the clip there from ESPN FC that Messi is 62 goals behind him in 1,069 games. It is unbelievable that he is still going. And then he scored his 901st goal. I guess it was been 2 nights ago. I'm trying to think of what day we're on here now, against Scotland. So he doesn't have any signs of stopping or show any signs. But one of the biggest questions here is, will he be around for the 2026 World Cup? He will be 41 years old. And some people, the pundits out there, will say, yes, he will, but not because the manager wants him. It's because at this point in time, Cristiano Ronaldo retires when he wants to retire. Which is, I don't know, I think a lot of people are hoping, okay, he's reached this mark. Hopefully he can, I don't want to say take a back seat, but that's essentially what he's going to have to do.
Right.
He's not going to be starting games. He's going to be coming off the bench, but I don't know if he wants that role. Do you know what I mean? He's somebody who's always been in the limelight. But even if he's not starting, he can offer a lot to this Portuguese team. But I don't think at this point in time, as we saw in the Euros, he's not a 90-minute or 120-minute player anymore. come off the bench in the 70th minute, maybe an impact, but we're thinking 2 years away. I don't know.
He does keep himself in tip-top
He's a
shape, though.
specimen.
He doesn't drink soda. He only drinks water. And I'm just saying, as an athlete, not as like a man, I'm not ogling over him as a man.
Sure.
As an athlete, I respect him because he keeps himself in really good shape.
He's a constant professional.
Yes, he is.
But unfortunately, as you know, as I know, and everybody else knows, as you get older, your legs start to go.
Of course,
and
this is inevitable. Even
though you look like a chiseled Roman god, you're still not going to be able to run as fast.
That's
exactly.
true.
And that's one of the biggest things right now. And I know we got to take off here, but one last thing I wanted to say. Another achievement. Indiana Fever star Caitlin Clark achieved yet another WNBA milestone. It just seems like game after game, this woman is just, there's no stopping her. It looks like she's toying with teams. And if you watch any breakdowns of her game, it just shows... she's a class above, essentially like Ronaldo. She's got a long way to go there, but she was the quickest to reach 300 career assists in the team's 104-100 overtime win against the Atlanta Dream. So congrats to her, and it's something that I think, not saying the WNBA needed a savior, but
more people are watching. It's true.
More eyes to the sport.
Even if you don't like them personally.
Young girls are getting into the sport. And also, it's more money to the sport, which in the long run is going to benefit it. And it's very, very fun to watch.
I have a message from Lee Kelly. It's for both of us.
Yes.
But I know what it is, but you can't say it on air.
Okay.
He says he used to hear all the time, GYAITH. RNBIBY. I know exactly what that is. Yeah, but we can't say it on air.
Can't say it on the air.
Yeah, but we'll give a hint. Here's our final song. We'll see you next week. Right? Happy Chuseok ahead of time.
Happy Chuseok. Yeah, I'll see you guys next week for sure.
All right, everybody. This was Andrew. And on that note, how about this? 멱살 한번 잡히십시다 by 장기하와 얼굴들. Enjoy. I'll be back at 8.
멱살도 못 잡고 밀쳐주지도 못하고 욕도 못 해주고 비웃어주지도 못하고 만난 적도 없고 앞으로 만날 일도 없고 아마도 그래도 아쉬운 마음이 한 번 멱살도 못 잡고 의식인지는 모르겠지만 당신들 때문에 내가 잘못된 거요 변상까지는 바라지도 않으니 멱살 한 번만 잡히십시다.
부산영어방송.
부산의 축제 어디까지
도시 부산을 만들고 있습니다. 글로벌 허브 도시 부산, 그 중심에 부산 글로벌 도시재단이 있습니다.
Busan Global City Foundation leads the Global Hub City Busan.
엄마, 나 용돈 좀 올려줘.
이거 친구가 준 거예요.
아이들의 일상을 관심 있게 들여다보면 도박으로 힘겨워하는 아이들의 구조 신호가 들립니다. 다양한 형태로 드러나는 청소년 도박. 그들의 구조 신호에 응답해주세요. 공익광고협의회.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
Good morning, Dynamic Busan.
Yeah, you're waking up. Time to shake it up. Tell the world good morning and find out what's going on.
Well, hi there, folks. There's everything from comedy to lively chat to music.
Broadcasting from a room about the size of your closet.
All calls are recorded.
What show is this?
Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan.
I'm sorry, who'd you say you were?
It is now 8 o'clock. This is news highlights. Government to dispatch over 200 medics as a blacklist of working ER doctors circulate. The government will dispatch a total of 235 military doctors to the country's emergency rooms or ERs this week amid confusion on the scene over the medics' preparedness. As this is going on, the health ministry yesterday has requested a police probe into an alleged blacklist of emergency physicians who have chosen to remain at their posts on a doctor's website. The ministry said that such list villainizes and demoralizes the doctors serving at emergency rooms. Prime Minister Han Duck-soo said that the authorities have reported about 30 cases to the prosecution, calling it a form of bullying and insulting, unacceptable in a democratic society. Prosecutor General accepts panel's decision on Kim Gun-hee's luxury bag probe. Prosecutor General Lee Won-suk told reporters yesterday that he respects the prosecution's panel's decision on advising against indicting First Lady Kim Gun-hee for accepting a luxury handbag from a Korean-American pastor. The Prosecutor General, whose 2-year term ends Sunday, exercised his right to refer the First Lady's case to the review committee after a prosecution investigation team decided to drop graft, bribery, and other charges against her. He quoted President Yoon Suk-yeol calling this an unwise act, stating that the prosecution thoroughly examined the fact that unwise acts do not automatically subject individuals to criminal punishment or recognition of criminal charges. North Korea's trash balloons cause fires, prompting property damage. A balloon sent by North Korea caused a fire at a warehouse in Paju, Gyeonggi Province yesterday afternoon. This followed another fire at an auto parts plant in Gimpo yesterday morning. The factory reported up to 200 million won in estimated damages, and the Paju warehouse over 87 million won in property damage. A preliminary investigation pointed to a detonator attached to the balloon as the authorities delve into the exact cause of the fires. Early admissions begins for 2025, including medical schools. Universities nationwide began collecting admissions applications for 2025 yesterday, including 39 medical schools, despite ongoing protests and walkouts by doctors calling for the withdrawal of the increase in medical school admissions. 39 medical departments are scheduled to admit 3,118 freshmen out of the 4,610 admissions quota for the next academic year, an addition of nearly 1,500 spots. The 2025 admissions process kicked off as surgeries and emergency room operations at major general university hospitals remain sharply disrupted due to the months-long walkout by medical professors and trainee doctors protesting the quota hike. Israel attack kills at least 18 in central Syria. Israeli missiles have killed at least 18 and wounded dozens in central Syria as Israel targeted a number of military sites in the area. Syrian Health Minister Hassan al-Gabash described the strikes as brutal and barbaric aggression, as the victims were mostly civilians. The attacks also caused significant damage to the water and electricity infrastructure. Throughout Syria's 13-year war, Israel has regularly carried out air raids in the country, mostly targeting Iran-linked sites. And this was News Highlights. It is now time for Wagle. Haley's back.
Hello again.
Yes, so this first story is regarding a Filipino police officer found guilty of abducting and murdering a Korean businessman from 8 years ago and has allegedly fled the authorities. What's going on?
Right. So this is a very convoluted story, very disturbing story, but it goes all the way back to 2016. And the whole case comes off like something from like one of those, blockbuster criminal movies that's popular. So a Korean businessman, his name was Ji-ju. He lived in the Philippines, but he was abducted from his home in the city of Angeles by two members of the Filipino police. So it was police officers who were actually involved in this crime. And also, one was from the police, the other one from the National Bureau of Investigation. And he was taken to the police drug enforcement headquarters parking lot. And keep in mind that the police drug enforcement, this was under Duterte's regime, very, very powerful.
Yes.
He was murdered at this parking lot. Police investigation also revealed that the two officers incinerated, so basically burned his body in the police incineration site and disposed of the ashes in the bathroom. So basically dumped the ashes. So the two lower-ranked officials who physically committed the crime, they were found guilty and sentenced to life fairly early on.
Yes.
But there was the mastermind who's named Rafael Dumlao. He was found innocent. And Dumlao, by the way, at the time was the superintendent of, once again, the all-powerful Drug Enforcement Agency. The case made heavy waves with locals as well as in Korea as well. But years later, so 8 years later, this year, the appeals court made an unprecedented decision and actually flipped it altogether, recognizing that the first judge apparently abused discretion. So in Korean, that would be 재량권 남용. Basically, the judge made a wrong decision despite clear evidence pointing to Dumlao's guilt.
Yes, but as you said, he apparently fled the authorities.
Right. So another interesting matter in the Philippines law, someone who's found guilty of even criminal charges isn't detained right away in the courtroom until his or her sentencing comes into effect. So they're basically set free until they are imprisoned. Right.
Okay.
So, but given the fact that Dumlao was a powerful police officer or law enforcement official and worked as an attorney after he left his job, some are saying that it was predictable that he would use his considerable network to try to run, which is what he did.
Yes.
So the thing is, so then people are saying, well, the local law enforcement, if their hands are tied, at least the Korean embassy should have made requests, which they didn't. So he was set free for 2 weeks, during which time he ran. And the embassy, turns out, even gave an interview recently saying that this guilty reversal was a diplomatic achievement on their part, which further added fuel to that fire.
Oh, goodness. Well, unfortunate that justice has not been carried out.
Right.
Because he's not in jail. Well, let's look at another court case. Definitely not as gruesome as this one, but certainly interesting, though.
All right, so I'm going to give you a teaser, a tidbit. A stolen umbrella, which apparently cost 200,000 won, so 20만 won, roughly round that up to $200.
Okay.
And involving the Constitutional Court.
Wow, that's an expensive
what umbrella is this?
What is this?
Right, so this case all unfolded at a restaurant in Gangnam in August of 2022. Two separate customers visited this restaurant. It was a rainy day. They both had black long umbrellas.
Okay.
They both put it, in separate holders.
Okay.
So the defendant, man in his 60s, he finished his meal first, came out, and according to CCTV footage, what he did is he took out his black umbrella, looked at it, put it back, and took out a second black umbrella, not his. Maybe he thought it was, looked at it, and took it.
Okay.
But apparently this was obviously an expensive umbrella. Some reports say that it belongs to a luxury car companies. Right. So after finding his umbrella missing, the second man called the police. The first man, the person who took the umbrella, said that he did so by mistake. Except the police deemed that because the stolen umbrella was worth 200,000 won, and apparently the plastic on the second umbrella was still attached to the handle, so it was brand new, they deemed that this was likely on purpose.
I see.
So the thing is, the case went to the prosecution, and the prosecution decided to suspend the charges, which means that they didn't press charges. So he didn't have to go to trial. There's no criminal record, but the record of suspended charges remains on one's record for 5 years. So if there is another problem, then the enforcement can take that into consideration.
I see.
So the thing is, the only way to get that off your record, if you have suspended charges, is to lodge that with the Constitutional Court.
Wow.
Which he did.
Okay, so the Constitutional Court saw that the first man was innocent. Is that what happened?
They did. So the defendant argued that when this happened, he was 62 and apparently had been suffering from diminished memory for a few years. So the constitutional record also recognized that he has psychiatric record of treatment showing this. So the justices ruled that given the conditions, it isn't unreasonable that he took the umbrella by mistake. So
interesting.
Yeah.
I can't really side with anybody on that one.
We really can't, but be very careful of
which umbrella you take.
Exactly.
Make sure it's yours.
Tie a scarf, put a name tag on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially because so many umbrellas are black.
Right.
It's difficult to
and I have my
distinguish
very
sometimes.
colorful umbrellas, but then, we buy it all from either the same website or the same drugstore.
Right,
so,
right.
Things are very similar.
I so want to see this 200,001 umbrella though.
I know. I'm like,
As one of our listeners, yes, 토리님 also says, 보고
20만
싶네요,
원.
20만 원짜리 우산.
Does
Me
it make the
too.
rain stop? Is it like Mary Poppins?
I
Can you
know.
fly with? You better be
How
able to fly
special
with it.
is it? Anyhow, next up, a world-class soprano is under fire for her behavior during a performance over the weekend, and some people are demanding refunds. So let's backtrack. What happened?
All right, so the jury's out on this. You be the judge, listeners, waiver. So one opera singer, we're talking about Angela Georgiou. She is one of the world-class sopranos. She was one of the stars of the opera performance Tosca at the Sejong Art Center with tenor Kim Jae-hyung.
Okay.
So in Act 3 of Tosca, Kim, the tenor, sings the most famous aria from the opera, E lucevan le stelle, The Stars Are Shining. So he got a long, well-deserved applause from the audience, who also yelled out, encore. And he segued into the encore with the orchestra. So he repeated parts of that aria. This is apparently, and this is where people are torn, it's uncommon. It's unconventional for someone to have an encore in the middle of a performance.
True.
But not unheard of, apparently.
Okay.
And that's what people say. That's what experts say. I'm not an authority on this. But during the encore, Georgiou went onto one side of the stage, off stage, but apparently gestured her frustration, telling them to hurry this along. And then this is why it's controversial. After the encore ended and tenor Kim began singing his next number, she came onto stage. This wasn't her cue. Yeah, she came onto the stage and gestured to the conductor to stop the music. So she stopped the performance.
Like literally.
Right. So then she proceeded to say, this isn't a recital, it's a performance. This is an opera, but there are apparently, there isn't video evidence of this because it's an opera.
You're not supposed to.
But I heard it's an opera, but then also from people who on social media who are allegedly at the performance. Anyways, but she basically said this isn't a recital and that the conductor and the tenor, by doing the encore, didn't respect her. So she said, respect me.
Oh, and then what happened?
So the performance resumed. I know, seriously. The performance resumed. It ended. But during the curtain call, where, the cast appear back on stage, she didn't come on for a while, for several minutes, they say. And because during the curtain call, phones are allowed, I did see a short clip. I didn't bring it in because there's really no sound that's discernible. She came on stage, and she's not at the center at all. She just came on stage, barely on the side. She blows half a kiss. And then apparently some people booed her when she came back on. And then after blowing that kiss, she exited without taking a
We need some
bow.
popcorn for this story.
I know.
What is going on?
So, this is the opera. This is at the Sejong Art Center. It's not cheap. The VIP seats were about, once again, going to 20만 won, again, 200,000 won.
Okay.
So some members who watched some audience who watched the performance live said that Georgiou was very rude and that was in disregard of the audience as well. Others say, the encore may have come off as disrespectful or it is at least unconventional. Sejong Art Center did request Georgiou to apologize. She hasn't made a comment, at least not yet.
That's the latest. Drama at the opera. My gosh. Oh.
Yeah, the real drama was off stage.
Yes, yes. Okay, let's go to our final story. We're now in the age of billionaires, but soon I guess we're going to see trillionaires. I'm not even at millionaires. Trillionaires.
Wow. Yeah. So the world's first trillionaire will likely be
who?
Elon Musk.
Oh.
Well, who else?
Yes. Yay.
Oh, good for him, I guess.
Yes.
So this is according to the Informa Connect Academy. It says that Musk wealth has been growing at an annual average rate of 110%. So he has been more than doubling his wealth every year. So at this rate, come 2027, which is coming fast, he's going to be the world's first trillionaire. Yeah. Let that sink in.
Yeah.
And then the second most likely trillionaire, we're going to go to India, the man behind all the fancy weddings of his children.
Oh, Adani?
Yes, Adani. Gautam
yes.
Adani of India. He's likely going to be the second trillionaire because his annual growth rate has been at 123%, so even higher than Musk. And then Jensen Huang, who's the CEO of NVIDIA.
Oh,
and,
yes.
And others. An Indonesia energy and mining mogul who could also become trillionaires. Also, Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, Bernard Arnault.
Yeah, what about him?
He will likely be, a trillionaire by 2030. If their rate continues.
Yes.
And by that time, likely Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Meta, would also likely be a trillionaire. But the market is a fast changing, especially a lot of these individuals work in tech, and tech is a rapidly changing world.
Yes.
By the way, I still am of the mindset Bill Gates is the richest man. I know it's not, I do the news, but I'm yeah, Bill Gates is the richest man in the world, right? No, Haley. That's so 2000s.
And the thing is, this isn't all just great news, though, because
it's not. Here's the thing. More money, more problems.
Yes.
Because immense wealth has been extracted at the cost of the vulnerable and the environment, so the earth.
Yes.
By the way, the richest 1% of humanity, they account for more carbon emissions than the poorest 66%. So let that sink in. I'm going to throw in one last bit of trivia because I can. By the way, by the time Elon Musk may become a trillionaire, that would be 111 years after the world saw its first billionaire.
Who was
Rockefeller. John D. Rockefeller, the founder and at the time largest shareholder of Standard Oil. So big oil was the boom behind billionaires, and big tech is behind trillionaires.
Indeed. Where are we? We're so poor now. But yes, thank you for all
We've been always poor. We'll continue to be poor.
For Wagelwager. We'll check in with you tomorrow. Thank you, Haley.
Bye-bye.
All right, back to you, the listeners, for our updated traffic and weather. it is now time for your updated traffic and weather. It's looking slow on Mandukdaero from the Manduk intersection to the expressway entrance. Also congestion on Gwangan Bridge right now going towards the Namcheon area. There's also some backup on Gwanmundaero from Baekyang Tunnel to Sujang Tunnel. Currently it's 27. It is sunny. It's going to be hot. It's going to go up to 34 degrees Celsius. It's hot across the country with daytime highs lingering in the 34 to 35 degree temperature range. This was your traffic and weather. So here it is. This is Ain't That a Kick in the Head by Westlife.
Can one guy be? I kissed her and she kissed me. Like the fellow once said, ain't that a kick in the head? The room was completely black. I hugged her and she hugged back. Like the sailor said, quote, ain't that a hole in the boat? My head keeps spinning. I go to sleep, I keep grinning. If this is just the beginning, my life is gonna be beautiful. I've sunshine enough to spread. It's just like the fella said. And be quick, ain't love a kick in the head. Like the fella once said, ain't that a kick in the head? Like the sailor said, quote, ain't that a hole in a boat? My head keeps spinning. I go to sleep, I keep grinning. If this is just the beginning, my life is gonna be beautiful. She's telling me we'll be wed. She's picked out a king-size bed. I couldn't feel any better, or I'd be sick. Tell me quick, oh, we love a kick. Tell me quick, ain't love a kick in the head?
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're talking about our text topic one last time before we get into our special interview. So today we've been talking about the phrase that you most frequently heard from your parents when you were young, whether it was, you know, the full-on name, usually spelled trouble. You're in some kind of trouble. Definitely for me as well. Or whether it was 밥 먹어, like come and eat, come and get it, come eat. Or what was the most common phrase that you heard as you were a kid? And we're also talking about your kid, your child, or maybe your future child. Like, are they exactly like you, and how does that feel? Yes, so that's what we've been discussing. And for some of the phrases that you've been hearing from your parents, apparently, for example, RB claims that he heard from his dad, very handsome from his dad, and from mom, Halloween is over. Halloween is over. But I don't understand the context. So, does that mean your mask is still on? Take it off? Or I don't know the context to that. So I need a little bit more explaining for that one. And a lot of the other comments that we've been... again, Neem says this. 멘붕. Simply, she writes, or they write, and I think it's in reference to the question, 내 자식이 나 어릴 때랑 똑같다면 반갑다 아니면 멘붕 온다. And so they write 멘붕 온다. So I don't know. Like I said, is that a blessing or a curse when your child turns out exactly just like you? So I don't know. You be the judge of that. All right, now we're going to get to our special interview. I'll be back in just a moment. Sleep deprivation is something we have all faced at one point, especially here in Korea. But, can we actually catch up on lost sleep? That is the big question. Well, recent research has unveiled that catching up on sleep, particularly over the weekends, may do more than just make us feel refreshed. But then, back in the day, I don't know about you, but I always thought you can't catch up on sleep. So let's find out more. We have invited Professor Elizabeth B. Klerman, Professor of Neurology at Harvard Medical School, and she's going to give us the lowdown on all of this. So let's say hi to her. Hi, Professor. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Catherine. Thank you very much for asking me to speak with you.
Yes. So, Dr. Klerman, if you can explain the recent research on catching up on sleep, because back in the day, we always heard, you should try to get your daily intake because you can't really catch up on it. But now it's not true?
So sleep has many purposes, and it may be that you can catch up on some of the sleep purposes of sleep by sleeping more, and others are harder to do. So most people think that the reason they sleep is so they can feel alert the next day. So if you get more sleep, you're more likely to feel alert the next day. You're more likely to feel happier or less irritable. So those measures of sleep deprivation can be made up with a couple days of extra sleep. The question is whether long-term effects of insufficient sleep can be made up, and we don't really know that. And some of the long-term effects are things like obesity or prediabetes or dementia. And we don't really know because those studies take many, many years. On the other hand, I would suggest if you have a chance to sleep, and it's a safe place to sleep, obviously, you should sleep.
I get it.
You can't sleep too much. If you are tired and you can sleep, you should sleep. It's not like chocolate cake that you can eat or I eat when I'm not hungry. Mm-hmm. There's no evidence that you could sleep more than what your body needs.
Really? That's so interesting because, I don't know, maybe our parents said, back in the day said you're being lazy, don't sleep too much or something like that. So you're saying it's okay, whatever our bodies can handle, that's enough.
Yes, whatever your bodies can handle, that's enough. For adolescents, sometimes parents think that the kids are sleeping in too late. Partially that's because adolescents tend to be later types, more owl type than younger people.
Yes.
I mean, older people. Sorry. Well, both younger kids and older people. And I think maybe that's why parents thought that the kids were sleeping too much because they were sleeping till noon or 1 a.m. on a non-school day. I would suggest let the kids sleep because they need to sleep and they probably haven't gotten enough sleep during the school week.
Oh, interesting. So how does catching up on sleep during the weekends kind of work to alleviate the effects of, I don't know, this accumulated sleep debt? I mean, is this a thing?
Yes, there is accumulated sleep debt. Mm-hmm. And if you get more sleep, then the debt is less. It may take more than a week. We don't really know. And it may be different for mood or performance or heart disease or diabetes. We don't really know how long each of them takes, and it may differ by individuals. Some people seem to do really well with very little sleep, and some people don't do well. The general advice, I'm sorry, yes, please.
Oh, yeah. So speaking of that, what you just said, Dr. Klerman, about some people, they do okay on fewer hours of sleep versus someone who may not. I mean, how can we know if, for example, the experts say, you need 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night, but, is it okay for certain people? Maybe they can get away with 6 hours. It's okay?
So when I'm asked this question, I usually ask the person, do you need an alarm clock to wake up? Because if you need an alarm clock, by definition, you're not getting enough sleep. I ask, how much sleep do you get on a day or a weekend or a vacation where you don't have to get up and you don't have a dog or a child or something that you have to go to? How much sleep do you get then? When do you go to sleep and when do you wake up? Dr. Till Ronenberg, who studies sleep and biological rhythms in Germany, compares using an alarm clock to stopping a washing machine before it's done. You know, why would you stop a washing machine when it's still rinsing or cycling or drying or whatever? The same thing as your body. One of the things that happens during sleep is your body removes some of the byproducts from your brain. And if you stop that, some of those byproducts are associated with the development of dementia. If you stop that, then you're not allowing your body to do some of its natural functions. So how do you know how much sleep you need? Well, if you don't take caffeine and you don't, use something pharmaceutical or whatever to help you stay awake, and you don't need an alarm clock, and on days where you don't have to get up, you get up at the same time and you don't then need a nap, then that's probably enough. But if you fall asleep as soon as your head hits the pillow, then you're probably not getting enough sleep.
Interesting about your head, like falling asleep right away when your head hits the pillow. Some of our listeners, they were talking about that just a few days back, saying some of them, they literally fall asleep like right away, and others, it takes a while to kind of settle down. But is there an optimal amount of catch-up sleep, for minimizing health risks?
So since it depends on the individual, I would say the optimum amount is when you sleep until you feel rested and you don't need an alarm clock to wake you up and you don't keep on sleeping over and over again. So it's what listen to your body. When your body wakes up and is not awoken, that is the ideal for catch-up sleep. Now, it may be that when you're on a vacation or something like that, when you can give yourself extra time, you sleep more, and then gradually you go down to a lower level. So I can tell you about an experiment that we did where we brought in people who at home said they sleep anywhere between 6 and 10 hours. So some people said they slept around 6 hours, and other people said they slept around 10 hours. And we brought them into the laboratory. We made sure they didn't have a sleep disorder, and they were between 18 and around 65 years of age. And we brought them in the lab, and on the second night in the lab, we had them put them in bed in darkness for 12 hours, and then they were awake for 4 hours, and then they were in darkness for 4 hours, and they were awake for 4 hours. And we did that for several days. So when they were in bed in the dark, they could sleep or not, but there wasn't anything to do. And on the first night, and the following nap time during the day, guess how much sleep people got? Remember, everybody at home said, this is all the sleep I need. I only need 6 hours of sleep. I only need whatever.
Yes.
Guess how much sleep people got on the first 24 hours in the lab when we said, you can't get out of bed?
I don't know how many. I'm so curious now.
12 and a half hours.
12 and a half hours?
Yep.
Wow.
And the second day, it was down to around 11. And after 2 days in the older people and after around 4 or 5 days in the younger people, it came down to the younger people were sleeping slightly more than 8 hours, which means they had to be in bed more than 8 hours to sleep 8 hours.
Yes.
And the older people were sleeping slightly less than 8 hours. So all these people said, I'm sleeping all I need. But when they were in bed, they were able to sleep more. And then it came back down again, which is a classic, what's called a homeostatic response, where you don't have enough. You overshoot and then you come down.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
But by the end, if they could sleep because they were bored, they would do that. But even if you're asleep for 8 hours and I'm making you stay in bed for 16 hours, that means they were lying awake in bed in the dark with nothing to do for 8 hours a day. So you can't sleep when you're not tired. And it was also interesting that the people on the first day said, oh, I feel so much more alert, because they'd sort of forgotten what feeling alert feels like, even without caffeine.
Wow. What a telling study. So if we talk about things like obesity and type 2 diabetes, which you brought up earlier, Dr. Klerman, how is that connected with sleep?
So people are still trying to work. That's an excellent question, first of all.
Okay.
People are still trying to work out the exact underlying biochemistry and physiology involved. we do know from a series of great studies done by Eva and Cowder and her colleagues at the University of Chicago a while ago, where they brought in healthy people and they gave them into the lab and they only let them sleep for 5 or 6 hours. And after a week, their blood chemistries looked as if they were getting diabetes. So they were otherwise healthy, but they were not given enough sleep and their body responded as if they were going to get diabetes. And there are studies, epidemiologic cross-sectional type studies that show that the less people get sleep, on average, the more likely they are to be overweight and the more likely they are to have pre-diabetes or diabetes. That doesn't mean it's a one-to-one association. I can't say if you're not going to get enough sleep, this is definitely going to happen, but we just know that it is more likely to happen. Now, some of that is that when people don't get enough sleep, they get hungry. You know, if you've ever pulled an all-nighter, I don't know about you, but I wake up midnight, I'm not looking for an apple, you know. And so some of it might be if you're not getting enough sleep, your hunger goes up and you don't tend to eat healthy foods.
Yes, that's true.
So if you're asleep, you can't eat. Your appetite goes down.
I have a question from one of our listeners, their phone number 8572 waiver, who asked this question, Dr. Klerman. In terms of night owls and early morning bird people, is there a difference in terms of the time they go to sleep versus their health? Is the question that's
really
posed.
Great question. So there are definitely early birds and there are definitely night owls. The night owls tend to have worse health, but it's not sure whether it's because they're night owls or because they're night owls trying to live and work in an early bird society.
I see.
So imagine you're a night owl and you want to go to sleep at 2:00 in the morning, but you have to show up at school at 7:00 in the morning. You're now only getting 5 hours of sleep. You're not going to do very well. But if you were allowed to go to school at 11:00 in the morning, you might do fine. So there's a question about whether it's something different about being a night owl versus being a night owl in an early bird society. It's a great question and we don't know the answer. But being a night owl is associated with things like worse grades and higher rates of a variety of diseases.
Oh, interesting. So for our final wrap-up question today, Dr. Klerman, I mean, so you're saying that it is okay to catch up on sleep during the weekends, whatever body needs. Is there anything else that we need to know in terms of sleep, whether, if too much sleep, like if you're sleeping for, let's say, 20 hours a day on the weekend, doesn't that just mean you're just not getting enough sleep during the week?
Well, there are sleep disorders.
Yes.
So there are sleep disorders in which people are in bed a long time but don't get enough sleep. So something like sleep apnea, where they're in bed and they're sleeping, but they're stopping breathing and they have to have these short awakenings in order to go to sleep.
Right.
Or there are disorders called hypersomnias, where people are sleeping 16 to 20 hours a day. Well, we usually say if you are in bed for 8 hours a night for a week and you still feel tired, or if your bed partner complains that you snore or you stop breathing or you kick them, then you should see a specialist.
I see.
Because you may have a sleep disorder that is interfering with your sleep.
Indeed.
But otherwise, I usually say, sleep is free. You don't need to buy expensive equipment. You don't need to go somewhere else to do it. You don't need to learn how to do it. You just mostly have to allow yourself to do it. And that sometimes means you can't have caffeine after 2:00 in the afternoon if it affects your sleep.
That's definitely me, yes.
Yeah. Alcohol helps you fall asleep, but then can interfere with you interfere with your sleep once you're asleep. I just feel like, Alan Rechtschaffen, who's one of the original people who studied sleep, said that if sleep doesn't serve an absolutely vital function, then it's the worst mistake evolution has ever made.
Wow.
Because usually evolution means you want to defend yourself, you want to eat, and you want to procreate. And you're not doing any of those when you're asleep. And yet every organism that we know has sleep, or every animal type organism we know has sleep or sleep-like behaviors. And therefore, evolution has kept us doing it, it must be doing something good.
Yes, yes. You know, I was going to let you go, but we're getting in so many questions, so I'm going to squeeze in one more, Dr. Klerman. Second chapter, that's their username, asks, how about splitting up your sleeping hours? Is it okay to sleep 3 hours here and then maybe 5 hours there to get the 8 hours? Is that okay?
So we usually say no. We say take a nap if you don't get enough sleep at night. So if you're like a shift worker and you can't get all the sleep you want, but it's better to have all your sleep in one consolidated sleep episode and only nap if that isn't enough. Because otherwise, you're setting an alarm clock. And when you're asleep, you go through patterns of non-REM and REM sleep, different kinds of sleep, and you're now disrupting that pattern by setting an alarm to wake up at 3. So it's better to have one consolidated at night and only nap if you need to later.
Oh my goodness. The questions are coming in strong still, but we're going to let you go. Thank you so much for coming on air with us and sharing such interesting information with our listeners. Take care, Dr. Klerman.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Right, bye. This was Professor Elizabeth Klerman, and I had to let her go because there were so many questions coming in, not just from our YouTube channel, but with our Kakao Talk and also our messages. People are very curious about this, and I feel like she explained so much. And hopefully in the near future, if we can have her on again with any sleep-related issues, we will try. All right, that was our special interview. This is If I by Baek Ji-young, requested by Umberto.
난 어떻게 해야 해 기다리다 후회해도 다시 난 너여야만 해 멀리 구름 뒤에 숨어도 내 맘속에 밤이 찾아오면 왜 몰라
Get your local up-to-date news from Korea and abroad right here on Morning Wave in Busan with Catherine. Stay tuned.
It is now time for The Health, and guess what? We found a brand new person because Bonnie's away, and we're going to welcome her to our program. Let's say hi to her. Her name is Annabella. Welcome to Morning Wave in Busan.
Hi, good morning.
So before we get started, let's get to know you just a little better. Where are you from?
So I'm German American, and I grew up in Germany and Korea.
Oh, and Korea. So how long have you been in Busan?
In Busan, I've been 5 years.
5 years. Have you lived elsewhere?
Yes, I lived in Seoul for 9 years.
For 9 years?
Yes.
Wow, so you've been in Korea for quite a bit.
Yes, a little bit too long, I think, but
no, of course not. Well, we're going to dive into our segment because we don't have time for our text topic. So what are we going to talk about for the health today?
So for today, I prepared something a little different, I think.
Yes.
I want to dive into the world of that girl morning routines.
Oh.
So I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of that girl.
I am, but maybe I don't think our listeners might be. So can you explain what that girl is?
Okay. So that girl is kind of a social media trend which appeared, I think, about 2 or 3 years ago.
Sure.
So it features usually a girl or a woman with a perfect morning routine. So she also focuses on health and looking stylish, and she kind of embodies health-focused habits, a polished aesthetic, and is basically balanced and productive.
Right.
Yeah, so this has kind of been a trend in recent girls and in recent years. And ever since then, I think people have been kind of obsessed with this concept of being that girl.
Yes, that girl, meaning that kind of like perfect girl, like that has it all. At least that's the image that is portrayed, right?
Exactly. Kind of very healthy, very put together.
So give us an example of what that girl looks like. Like, what does she do?
So
how does it begin?
I think so there are certain steps that she takes.
Okay.
Hold on.
Yes.
So how she starts her day, it's like all about setting a positive tone for the day with a focus on health, which is what the segment is about,
so
right?
I would assume that that girl would wake up kind of early, not late, like at 11 a.m.
Yeah, so she usually starts her day around 5:30 or to 7 a.m.
Sure.
So can you imagine waking up at 5:30? Maybe you do.
I do. I wake up at 4:30
right,
every morning.
Oh my gosh, so maybe you are that girl. Let's figure it out.
I don't know about that. It's just because of work. Yes.
Okay,
and then?
So the idea why she wakes up that early is so she has enough time for self-care and to start the day a little bit earlier before it gets busy. Kind of keeping your mind, calm before the day starts.
Okay, so that girl wakes up early, and then what does she do?
And then she always hydrates. So she wakes up and she drinks a glass of water, which is what we should all do because we're dehydrated.
I do this because my roommate, he insisted on like the room temperature. Ugh, I don't like warm water, but like I've started doing it. It's supposedly good for me. I don't know if it does, but yes. Okay, I do that. The large glass of water. Okay. And
then she always incorporates some sort of physical activity.
Oh, like?
So such as yoga, stretching, a workout, or a brisk walk.
Oh, okay.
So it's always healthy to, get a bit of movement after you've been laying down for the whole night. So it boosts energy and sets a positive tone for the day.
Okay, so we have the early wake-up call, you're hydrated, you have that, large glass of water, and then you have some sort of form of exercise. So what comes next?
After that, well, I don't really know if these are all in order.
Okay.
These are just basically steps that you have to take. So then she focuses on mindfulness practices like meditation or journaling, and this helps her focus, reduce stress, This helps her focus, reduce stress, and set clear intentions for the day.
Okay.
And after that, breakfast is always a must. I know we love skipping breakfast. A lot of people, like I did this morning.
Right, like I usually do as well, right?
But it's important because, you want to start your day being nutritious and getting all the energy for the day ahead.
And I'm pretty sure she doesn't have pizza for breakfast.
No,
right?
So we want to keep things healthy, right? So I know in Korea they don't really eat this that much, but avocado toast, smoothie bowls, or oatmeal with fruit, something along the lines of that.
Healthy.
Exactly is what is the trend.
and then what's the next step after she has breakfast? That girl, her healthy breakfast, what does she do?
So she wants to take the time for personal grooming. So you want to look your best, right, for the day. So this often includes a skincare routine and getting dressed in a stylish yet comfortable outfit. So this helps her feel fresh and confident.
This mythical that girl, right?
This mythical girl.
Only on social media. And then what happens after that? After the personal grooming?
So she spends her time a few minutes reviewing her to-do list, which she made the previous day, or just planning her day. And that helps her stay organized and ensures she's ready to tackle her tasks efficiently. And probably she spent this time doing the night before because she's organized and prepared for the day.
And then and then she goes on with the rest of her day, or how does it go?
I think pretty much she focuses on maintaining a positive and calm mindset. And usually, I don't know if you've heard of affirmations.
Oh, yes,
You tell yourself, I'm loved.
I'm loved. I'm the best.
I'm the best. I can do everything that I want to do.
Yes.
And setting goals. And then you just start your day.
So now that we have talked about that girl and we have so many comments on our board, first of all, welcoming you, and they're asking, is it Annabella or Annabelle? It's Annabella, right?
Yes.
Yes.
A at the end.
Yes, not Annabelle the doll. No,
Yes.
Annabella. And then also people are saying such a mythological and mythical kind of person, that girl that we're describing. And so Leslie's saying, pizza has grain, veggies, dairy, and meat. That is a balanced diet, is it not? Is one person's take on it.
It's balanced, but doesn't make you feel energized throughout the day.
That's true, because, if
That's
you have
what we need
that,
to keep in mind.
Yeah, if you have first thing in the morning some sort of carb, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, and then we just posted that girl healthy routine. Our producer, just posted it on our NoTube channel, so you guys can take a look. And
I do want to note that everyone's that girl morning routine can look different.
Yes.
And so, this is kind of the extreme what we were talking about, but kind of just keeping in mind what you can do to make yourself feel better and more prepared. So,
Annabella, are you that girl? Is this what you do every morning?
I strive to be that girl.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So you go through all these steps?
I strive to.
Wow.
But
so
I have not
are real.
completed all the steps.
So it's a daily kind of thing where you try to complete the steps every day.
It's making, those habits, creating habits and being consistent.
Yes.
Which is kind of difficult, but if you set your mind to it, I think anyone can do it.
Right. But we were laughing, but I was looking at that list, the one that you shared with us. These are things that we could do.
It's very doable.
It's doable, but it would take extra time. If I wanted to do all of this, I would have to wake up at 3. So I don't know if it's doable at 3 a.m.
Well,
right.
For example, meditation or journaling, you can just use 3 minutes. It doesn't have to be 20 minutes of each step.
Sure.
You can make it your own. But yeah, so I want to ask you, Catherine, what does your morning routine look like?
Oh, okay, so I do get up at 4:30, and the first thing I do is I get up. I do get that room temperature warm water that my roommate insists on. I've been doing it for the past, I think, 4 or 5 months now. And now I can, I can sip, a large glass. In the beginning, it was literally like a third of a cup of water. And then I jump into the shower, take a shower. And then as soon as I get out, I have to dry my hair, do my makeup because, we're on YouTube nowadays, right? So got to do the makeup, look presentable. And then what do I do? Oh, yeah, I got to put on the makeup and then get dressed, get in the car and come here. That's my morning.
Okay.
And it's all done. I get here by like 6:10ish. If I'm running late, 6:15. Yes. So that's my morning. Go on air. And then I have tons of other stuff waiting for me. Right after 9 a.m., people think, oh, Kat gets to go home. No, that's just like the very beginning of my day. I have a full day of classes. So
when does your day end?
I am typically done with everything, my duties, my chores, and I'm in bed at probably 11:30 or 12. I have a long day.
That's really long.
Yeah, so I can never be that girl. I'm like,
you're still that girl in your own way.
Yeah, just a lot on my plate. But thank you so much for bringing this to our attention, this whole that girl, and try to at least achieve certain parts of it to keep yourself sane and healthy.
So it's not meant to make us feel bad about our mornings. It's just meant to motivate us to have more energy throughout the day.
Right. Well, thank you so much. And we look forward to speaking with you real soon. Thank you, Annabella.
Thank you for having me.
All right, everybody. This was The Health. I hope you enjoyed it. That was really fun going through that little checklist of that girl. And you know what? That girl, it can be that boy too, right? So it doesn't pertain to just females. And we're going to end it on this song. 잠 못 드는 밤 비는 내리고 by IU. So I hope you have a wonderful day, even though it's going to be really hot. Okay? See you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.
울적한 맘을 달랠 수가 없네. 잠도 오지 않는 밤에 슬픈 노래는 듣고 싶지 않아. 내 맘속에 잠들어 있는 네가 다시 나를 찾아와. 나는 긴 밤을 잠 못 들 것 같아. 창밖에 비가 내리면 우두커 네 창가에 기대어 앉아 기타를 튕기며 노래를 불렀지. 네가 즐겨 듣던 그 노래. 창밖을 보면 비는 오는데 괜시리 맘만 울적해. 울적한 맘을 달랠 수가 없네. 잠도 오지 않는 밤에 이젠 나의 희미한 기억 속에 너는 점점 더 멀어져 가고 너의 슬픈 미소만이 나의 마음속에 가득 남아